ngubani la? Hayi. Uzosondela ngapha uDeputy. Kona kuthiwa serum 8.
Uyakuxabana.
Oh yeah, ngiyabonga.
Fanele iphindele zingane ngizilethela sekhulile. Ngathi umuntu lethela lapha nje. Uyabo sekhulile sokuphinde futhi uzo understand what is happening. Kodwa isichwepheshe portfolio yakuzange ngithole sekusebenzana ngomncane. Hector Peterson. Iyo ngizikhala. Angifuni le ngane izididwa belungula ngifuni khona. But you don't notify me. So good day. That was yesterday. Deputy Mayor of the District. I will be here as a program director of the session. Before we call it, we tell up the Deputy Minister, Deputy Minister, and the Deputy Betty Agiti more long. Deputy Minister, Mr. Morolong.
Aisha TM.
Umeya we-district ubaba uNomalala, ngibingelele umeya we-local Msunduzi local municipality ubaba uThebola, ngibingelele u-deputy mayor womsunduzi uButi Khabazela, ngibingelele usomlomo wawumsunduzi umama uMajola, bese ngibingelela umfundisi Nceke Nkosi ekade nje lokhu isihola la ngokukhethekile, ngibingelele uBishop ubaba uThelezi eXelisano of Inkosi umkhanduva uThelezi, siyabingelela Ncekelele, siyabonga ukuba nawe ngaphakathi la endlini, bese ngibingelela ama-officials wonke aka-GCIS, ngibingelele iy'ntatheli zonke ekhona. Ngiyazi-ke ukuthi Ncamalala zizobhala okuhle ngathi namhlanje as uGungundlovu District Municipality kuhlangene nomsunduzi. Ngibingelele abasebenzi base-district bonke abakhona ngaphakathi, abasemsunduzi abakhona, nabo bonke-ke abantu abakhona ngaphakathi, isibingelele sithi makadunyiswe uJesu Kristu.
Kuze kube phakathi Katholika.
Bese ngizicazile-ke uMadlamini, ngizoba nje program director, angizoba mude kakhulu. Ngizocela-ke manje ama-welcoming remarks ukubiza ubaba uNcamalala ukuthi phambili azosamukela uNcamalala.
Oh. Ukhuluma umfundisi. Ngibona yini? Siyabonga kakhulu program directors, Deputy Mayor waseMgungundlovu. Let's extend our greetings to our Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Deputy Minister Morolong, Mayor Thebola of Umsunduzi Local Municipality, Deputy Mayor Kabazela, Somlomo Mama Majola, the management, the department, nama staff members, Jaonke at department, Yaga Communications, ama sector departments, wonke, Mfundisi, siyabingelela Bishop Nqengelele, sibonge kakhulu Mfundisi ukuthi usithathe through ito sikhablile. Sibingelele naba media abakhona. No, we'll be very short in the interest of time because ours really is to welcome all of you to this important session and the program. We must say, Deputy Minister, that we appreciate the fact that when the program was conceived in the presidency, there are 11 districts, 10 districts plus 1 metro in this province. For a choice of Mkungundlo, for making that choice for the program to be done here in Mkungundlo, I think it's something that we should really appreciate. We appreciate this because of the history that has just been narrated through the talk. Because we are a district which has produced a number of prominent figures, activists of note who played a particular role in the liberation struggle, which brought about freedom, and as a result we are enjoying now and celebrating these 30 years of freedom because of their sacrifices, because of their contributions, because of their dedication, because of their determination to see this country changing for better. As the current leadership of Mkungundlo, that is those of us who are serving our people in the municipalities that are under this particular district, we appreciate the fact that we are standing on the shoulders of great giants. Moses Mabhida, as it has been shared during the tour, Ubaba Harry Gwala, Ubaba Mfene Ndala, Ibono Baba Makubane, who are still alive, and a number of other great leaders that were standing on their shoulders. And as we do our work, we need to keep looking back, having these flashbacks and say, what is it that they were standing for? And what is it in the current epoch that we should do to honor and recognize the contribution that they've made and never to disappoint them at any given point? We know that they rose to the equation not because the conditions were very good at the time. They stood firm, took particular decisions which made them end up in these particular prisons and other prisons because the situation out there was not the desired one. Land had been dispossessed of those who were original owners of the land through the 1913 Native Land Act and the successive legislation which made further dispossession of the land around 1936. They had to respond to that. They had to respond to the fact that a number of pieces of legislation had been passed, pushing our people from their areas to start looking for employment elsewhere and become migrant labor, but also be discriminated when they have also been pushed to become workers in whatever workstations, whether in the mines or in any part of the country. And we always remind ourselves that when the Labor Relations Act was passed around 95, 96 to introduce, a new way of operating and of managing relations in the workplace. And we should always say to people they should not forget that as early as 1926, a piece of legislation called Calabar Act was passed, which reserved skilled and semi-skilled jobs for whites, coloreds, and would push black people to unskilled jobs. It was some kind of a job reservation scheme. And our struggles, and the struggles that these giants led, were really to change those situations around so that we could get a better country. They were trying to change a situation where the apartheid government would wake up and pass a legislation called the Group Errors Act around 1950 to push people into particular corners. Here, Indians will stay, Africans will stay here, white people will stay here, coloreds will stay here. And those who are from around this particular district will know that in as much as the current leadership in local government, we are doing everything that we can do to change and undermine apartheid special framework. But the reality is that the evidence is still stacking, still glaring at us. You will still know if you are around Msundus that if you are in Vulindlela, Itindale and Imbali, you will mainly find Africans. As you go to Montrose, Chase Valley, mainly whites. And a few of our Africans people and black people who would have advanced and they are able to stay in those areas. But if you move to Woodlands, you will mainly find the colored population, as well as your Eastwood. You know that if you are some of your northern suburbs, your North Dale or Montrose, you will find the Indian community. So there are those vestiges of evidence of apartheid special planning. And the heroes that I'm saying were standing on their shoulders as the current leadership, they were there to respond to that kind of a situation, to turn that situation around. The point that I'm making is that it will always be important for us to have those flashbacks and say, where do we really come from? It's not out of a miracle that our country has transformed. It has become what it is. That I don't need, I'm a boy from Mbandla. I now don't need a permit to come to town like it used to be in the past. It's not a miracle. It's as a result of the struggles of the people that when we're doing a tour, their names were cited. Some of them went through a lot. Some were killed in the process. Some served long terms in prison. Some died in prison. Some went in prison being in full, in good and perfect health, and came back with different conditions, which they did not go with to prison. The point that I'm making as part of this welcoming remarks is that as we see great things happening and a lot of progress that we are now seeing 30 years down the line, because of the 30 years of our freedom, we should never be oblivious of history. Because if we get to that particular point, we will not appreciate what we have achieved in the last 30 years, but also appreciate the enormity of the problem that 30 years of democracy has been trying to respond to, and what we need to do more to change the legacy and the damage that was done over a period of time. We'll not be impatient and say to ourselves, but we have been here for 30 years, and not appreciate the fact that we are unwinding history of close to 400 years of segregation, of marginalization, of affording opportunities to a minority in the population and pushing to the periphery those that are in the majority in our country. With those words, would like to say welcome to the program. Welcome.
Siyabonga nqamakala, siyabonga kakhulu. Meya, ukusho ukuthi sesingawakhumula kamabhantshi, sikhululeke sesimukeliwe ekhaya. Ngizoba mfishane kakhulu ngizocela kwabaphethe i-program kunama changes azoba khona. I move to remarks by the witness, by Mr. Rekwadi Jacobs, a representative of the witness, to come and give us a presentation.
Good morning to the Deputy Minister, Mr. Orolong, our city leadership, the mayor, leadership of the district, the mayor of the district, deputy mayors, and our speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. Today we stand here at a crossroads of our history. It's a momentous spot that we've chosen to celebrate 30 years of democracy, and I think the prison and this environment and to the management of this facility, it captures exactly the struggles that have been fought to get us to where we are at the moment. Walking through the cells, looking at the manner in which people have sacrificed their lives, you know, not that they go to prison for the wrong things, they went to prison for the right things. They were prepared to give up their lives for the cause of justice and for the democracy that we celebrate today. In a short while, we'll be heading to the train station, and there will be a presentation there about sacrifices that were made to bring us to this point today. As we stand here reflecting on all of this, I think what needs to be done is we need to reflect and ask ourselves, what does democracy mean for us as South Africans today? And sadly, the biggest issue is that there are so many contradictions. Democracy means what it means for one, it doesn't mean for the other. And as South Africans, I think where we go wrong is that we lose our sense of self-identity as a South African nation, together having traveled these roads. We've got a very painful past, but it's our common past. So we have to grapple to make sense with our history. One of the biggest questions, that we often find is that, we ask ourselves in these contradictions, how is it that we did everything right and seemingly we also do everything wrong at the same time? And I think that, again, is the bipolar view that tends to skew South Africans and different communities' views of everything. And I'd like the words of the mayor to say that, listen, we have a painful history. It's a 400-year history that has given us what we have, and we have come 30 years along that path. So a lot needs to be done, but we have to build on the values that have been handed down to us. One of the questions that we need to ask is, in trying to understand our identity and grappling with these contradictions, what is the golden thread that joins us together as South Africans? And the golden thread is simply our democracy. The fact that we live in a democracy, that we've had multiple free and fair elections from a most painful past, the most recent being in May, a momentous outcome, the people have spoken, irrespective of whether our GNU holds, the center holds or not. That is not the issue. The issue is that our democracy works, and we must not take our democracy for granted. One of the fundamental building blocks of our democracy is the media and media freedom. And we are blessed in South Africa to have a free and fair media environment. Our media reports freely without interference. We have disagreements with government, we have disagreements with other sectors, but our constitution, particularly chapter 16, guarantees us media freedom. And that's something that in many parts of the world is not guaranteed. You go to jail for speaking out in other parts of the world. We've had cases where people have died in prison recently around us in sub-Saharan Africa, We've had activists and journalists that have been jailed. So in relation to the media sector, I think that's something that we cherish. It's something that we must strive to protect. And in saying that, I just want to bring everyone's attention to the fact that it is probably the most difficult time for media in South Africa as we speak. There are momentous movements in the landscape that are threatening media, and it's not necessarily digital that is threatening our newspapers. It is not government or censorship. It's the fact that South Africans are not supporting their media institutions. It's the fact that our children are not reading newspapers, right? And we are raising a generation of media illiterate young adults that we expect to pick up from the lessons that we learn and to go out there and make a difference. But they're not, because they don't understand our history. They don't understand what's happening in the world, in their city, in their provinces, on the continent. So our message as the witness is that it's beholden upon us in terms of if we want to bestow this legacy on future generations, is to start with getting our children to read newspapers and to supporting media. In October, we celebrated or commemorated Black Wednesday, and Black Wednesday reflects to that era where the state banned newspapers in South Africa and journalists were sent to prison. And I just want to pay tribute to all our journalists that are out there, particularly our journalists here at The Witness. The Witness is South Africa's oldest continuously published daily newspaper in the country. This year it's 178 years old, Minister. So I want to pay tribute to all our journalists and the phenomenal work that they are doing in terms of safeguarding our democracy, holding power to account. And the last thing, in talking about media and the youth, I think when we look at history, we need to ask ourselves, history is about celebrating the past, but it's also about the present and the future, right? And in 30 years' time, the youth of today will be commemorating our current standard. We must all ask ourselves, what have we done today for our future history? So from the Witness's point of view, we are investing in media learnership programs. We are actively taking youth, equipping them with media skills, and developing them to take up their position in the sector. But for that, for us to create jobs for journalists, young journalists, we need the support of society. And we need a partnership with government, with civil society, and all of the people of the Republic to make that a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jacobs. Something before ngiqhubekele phambili, I would like to acknowledge u-MM of uMgungundlovu. Ngeke ngikwazi ukungam-acknowledge ngaze ngingaholi ngomhla ka-24. Siyakwamukela babamutho ukuba ngaphakathi. Siqhubeke-ke, asifuni ukumosha isikhathi ngoba usemude umsebenzi sazowenza. I would like to call Mr. Sandile Nene, njengoba kade ngisho ukuthi kuzoba nama-changes. Ngiyazi ukuthi kuthina kubhalwe omunye acting DG waka-GCIS to give us a briefing of political leadership on the status of the 30 years of freedom campaign. Madlogo.
Colleagues, dear, maybe in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through the entirety of the protocol. Even though when we were trained, we were told that there's nothing called all protocol observed. So I'm breaking protocol with your permission. Dear, when we came here, we thought we were going to be celebrating 30 years. But I think I've learned a lot. So it has become a serious exercise where even our team is learning quite a lot. I've lived in Maritzburg for most of my earlier years, but I didn't come here. So that's quite a very eye-opening session for me that I've had. Maybe before I introduce some of the colleagues that are with us, I do want to say what are the changes we're celebrating. First of all, we're celebrating the fact that we did not have a GCIS, DN. We did not have a Department of Government Communications and Information System. What we had was what we call SACS, the South African Communication Service. It was in the presidency, but it was meant to deliver communication only to the select few. And this is something that I think as we are reflecting on the changes, we need to be able to talk about. I do have, and one of the things as well, which I also saw, which is quite critical, we are going to make sure that maybe we come back as officials. In the political language, which I am just I'm a novice because I'm an official, there's something they call NDR. They call it National what Revolution. I don't know, that's why I put myself right. So, but in our language, we call it the National Digital Repository. We have an entity called NEMISA, the National Electronic Media Institute of South Africa. What they do is to capture those things, both in the animation format, which is what our kids love, tell the story in the way best to capture the interest of a child. So we are going to come back with NEMISA to ensure that this is done. The second part is that I think we are speaking to our colleagues as well from DSAC. The Heritage Month, the South African Post Office, during the month of Heritage or any Heritage Month, they deliver a specific heritage stamp. So it would be in our best interest as well that at least when we celebrate 30 years, some of the elements that have gotten us be found in the different institutions. And then I'm not going to speak about what the colleague spoke about in terms of how free our media is. But I do want to introduce just the colleagues that are here, DMing colleagues. I'm not going to, obviously the MM is there. We do have, when we talk about economic diplomacy, that's key for us. We do have all the way from France, Mr. Matot Dlamini, who represent the French-owned company called JCDecaux, which is the billboard company, is here with us. Then I thought people were going to say all the way from France, they're not sure whether this is Matot. He works for the French-owned company, which is... Oh, there's also a Dukan community called France. Yeah, so maybe you can't be one person coming from two different places. And then our partners, the mailing guidance in the upstate, okay, there is the representative, John, is here. The witness, as we've indicated. And then we've got our colleagues from the Universal Access Agency of South Africa, which is USASA. We have made a commitment with USASA to say they will work with us to come back to the district. Most people, when we ask what is USASA, they didn't know. It's a very important institution. In fact, they are a regulator because they need to go to communities and find who are the players that are under-serviced and underserved, so that at least we can intervene. And they define what is under-serviced and what is underserved. And then also we've got partners with us, the mobile telephony network. Most of us know it as MTN, but basically the name is Mobile Telephony Network. Those are our partners who are here. If they are not, they are stuck in traffic because we're told that they are making their ways into the session. And then, of course, again, there was a strategic move, colleagues, to ban things. Because government had a way of coming up with different legislation and policies to ban. We used to have a censor board, which was the Film and Publication Act of the different era. So every publication, anything that the government felt needed not to be consumed by the public, it was banned using that. So what have we done? We've created a new body in the form of APB, but now with a different focus, which is not censorship, rather it's about content classification. They are quite key in the different components of how democracy is run, because our children, DM and colleagues, they are suffering from the different harm caused by unwarranted and harmful media content. So the things that they consume, which should not be consumed by a child at a later stage, they are quite key in terms of educating our parents as well as us, because most of us will just allow kids to watch content, including, by the way, to educate parents that there are certain toys which are very addictive. Can I just repeat that? Toys that we buy to our kids are very addictive, and they can be very dangerous in their bringing of a child. So they're quite key as well. We've got USASA, as I've indicated, and the CAS, and the DSEC. Before I sit down, dear, there was another thing, but I thought maybe you can better deal with that. In the totality of the last 2 days, which is the third day today, the official day, what we are seeing is the importance of all of us working together in the spirit of DDM. But also, if you look at some of the international governments, what they have is that they do not have a standalone arts and culture. Because what affects content, or what they want from the content generation side, is that it must be either played or flighted by us as broadcasters, us as communication. So they've actually merged these departments. So they will say media, culture, and sport, because of the totality of how closely aligned we are in the broader understanding of the creative industry. So colleagues, from here, I've been asked to outline what we are going to do. So immediately when we are done with the speeches, we have part B of the program, which is going to be at the Prasa train station. It's 300 kilometers away from where we are right now. And then from there, we have a similar program where we'll be receiving a train, a branded train. It's quite significant as well. And then from there, we are going to then make our way to the capture site. So we thought we'll emphasize it, because there was a miscommunication where people thought there was going to be a briefing at the chambers, but the briefing had been done yesterday. With those few words, colleagues, thank you so much, and see you in the next program.
Siyabonga kakhulu Madlokofu, information osusinike yona, siyabonga mfowethu. Lana ke bafuna ukungicorrupta komeya wase-district nowasemsunduzi DM. Ngithi angikusho lokhu ngoba kuthiwa yikho-ke i-vacuum ka-government, angithi ayikho i-vacuum. Manje khona la bebona khona ukuthi-ke kwi-remarks by uPrima asikwazi ukuyiyeka, bathi asivele sesiyithatha-ke, kodwa-ke angazi ngenze njani DM, kodwa ngiyalibona leli thuba eliyiqayisi vele. Within the absentia of uPrima akwazi ukuba ne-vacuum, kodwa-ke asidluleke lapho-ke. Mhlambe ke manje I would like to call DM wethu. Ngiyazi ukuthi DM you will be surprised ukuthi I will call by amagama akho wonke Mr. Itiseng Kenneth Morolong.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The Mayor of the District, Ngamalala, the Mayor of our local municipality, Ndate Tebola, I'm told you are. Let me proceed. Deputy Mayor Mkhize, our Speaker, Memajola, Pastor Bishop Butelezi, our distinguished officials, representatives of our different government entities, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today we are reminded of our painful past. The journey that our country and our people have traversed over more than 400 years of colonialism of a special type, where the oppressor and the oppressed shared a territory. We're also here to remind ourselves of the gallant freedom fighters who fought a hard-won struggle against colonialism and against apartheid segregation. This place also reminds us of the brutality of the colonizers and the apartheid agents. As we reflect on this history, we cannot help but convey our collective appreciations to those who came before us, to those who laid down their lives so that you and I must enjoy the fruit of our hard-won democracy. We convey our appreciations to the Utelezi family for the giant that Inkosi Utelezi was, and for his resistance, for his unparalleled bravery, even in the face of adversity and in the face of brutality. We convey our appreciations to all the families of freedom fighters who came to this prison, who were persecuted by the apartheid regime, who suffered at the hands of the brutality of the erstwhile regime. We convey our appreciations to the families of Harry Kwala, the Lion of Midlands, a man who was loved by the youth, who was a source of inspiration, who galvanized young people into action, who have had songs named after him, who is celebrated throughout the country for his unparalleled courage and his tenacity in the fight against apartheid segregation. We also are reminded of men who were brave, such as Dr. Neka, Yusuf Dadoo, the man who was one of the first few people to reflect on the capacity of Nelson Mandela. And I'm told in the late 40s, he said of Nelson Mandela that this man should become the symbol of the plight of our people. We are reminded of Nelson Mandela, David Muzamara, the first commander-in-chief of Mkondo Wesizwe, the real Mkondo Wesizwe, the former president of the African National Congress, a man who was captured here in KZN, a man who, as Tambo would have described, tall, handsome, with a long beard, who was loved by the youth because his impatience reflects their own. This is our history. This is our cumulative history of struggle and resistance. And this is the history we should be proud of. And so as we celebrate the resilience, as you said, Mr. Jacobs, the resilience of our political system, we are reminded that we are a nation which is glorious, a nation that is magnanimous in victory, a nation that has put the past behind it and moved on. Notwithstanding that this past was painful and unbearable, but because we understood the need to coexist peacefully and live together in harmony. The 30 years of our democracy reminds us of preceding years of our struggle and the sacrifices made by women. Kastuba Gandhi, a phenomenal woman who died in India in prison, was fighting for Indian independence. She too was detained here. And we celebrate many other women whom without them we would not have achieved our formal political freedom in 1994. Women of great stature, women whose courage inspired generations of youth into action, women who led from the front. We dare say that without these women, we would never have achieved our formal political liberation. So 30 years of our democracy means, for many of us, it means the ability of you and I and many others who are not here of different races to live together in peace and harmony. It means affording black people who were disenfranchised for the longest time an opportunity to exercise their rights that are encapsulated in our Constitution and in our Bill of Rights. It means a government that accounts to its people, a government that puts its own people first, a government that continues to deliver services to its people, a government whose leaders lead with humility, with honor, with diligence, a parliament that holds the executive accountable, a government that leads by example, an ethical government, a government that detests corruption, a government that responds to the plights of our people. You know, in the last 2 quarters of 2023, the KZN government, the most populous, second populous province, 12 million people residing there. This government created more jobs than all other provinces in the last 2 quarters. This is something we must celebrate. We hope this government, the new provincial government, will emulate the great deeds of the erstwhile government, follow in its footsteps, create jobs for our people, lead by example, ensure that we place our people first, place our country first, and more importantly, ensure that our people continue to enjoy the fruits of our hard-won democracy. So we thank you very much, Pastor, for having taken us through the memory lane, for the opportunity to narrate these painful stories of our past. Today we can look back with a much deeper sense of pride that our forebears did unthinkable at the height of the strength of our oppressors. They fought courageously, they fought and worked together, they spoke in unison, and they liberated us from the chains of slavery and oppression. I thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu Deputy Minister, siyabonga. Sesiya ngaseqedeni ke manje i-vote of thanks sizoyinika uBaba Mayor, uKhansela, uThebola. Sicela uze ngaphambili.
section 139 because kunama fears ukuthi sinama ambitions. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Nomzane Okeni Murolo, Deputy Mayor Gebo. Thank you. The Mayor of Mkumundlovu District, Councillor Zuma, Deputy Mayor Kabazela Somlomo, Councillor Majola, Abefundisi, Babu Mngulwane, thank you. Uyabona ukuthi kungani sahlangana yeah. Thank you. Bishop Telezi nabo bonke ababefundisa uma bekhona. The management or senior officials from various government departments, including local government. Wonke ama stakeholders akhona, including nabe media. Sanibonani. Okay, no CEO Dr. Ludziva lapha ngemuva ucashile we KZNCC. South Africa's transition to democracy in 1994 marked a historic turning point in its history, ending decades of apartheid and ushering in an era of freedom and equality. As South Africa commemorates 3 decades of democracy in 2024, it's a fitting moment to reflect on the nation's journey. Indeed, to have Obusamsalona Lapana Babu Mngulwane tells all about South Africa. From the euphoria of first democratic elections to the realities of today, the path traversed has been one of triumphs and tribulations, progress and setbacks. It is an undisputed fact that prior to 1994, black people were landless, homeless, and hopeless. Even today, Ushilo, Mayor waseMkumundlovu, the legacy of apartheid continues to shape the social and economic dynamics in our society, with black South Africans, particularly, disproportionately affected by poverty, unemployment, and limited access to resources. Yebo. The last 2 days we have had an opportunity to reflect on the journey as Qinengale engicabanga ukuthi sithinde sonke emoyeni yethu emfundisi ukusikhumbuza ukuthi siphuma kuphi, kodwa bezisikhombisa ukuthi how privileged we have been as abantu base-South Africa abaphilayo namhlanje ukuthi sizuze kuleyo msebenzi yenziwa abantu abafike ngaphambi kwethu. The glorious history of the struggle for liberation in South Africa has given us formidable giants and stalwarts. La eMkumundlovu, we consider ourselves, Deputy Minister, to be exceptionally fortunate and blessed in that we have in our backyard been graced by the iconic figures whose names looms large in our liberation history. The names of Comrade Terry Gwala, Comrade Vemendala Baba, and Moses Mapita, which probably moving forward when Babu Mngulwane, we will reclaim that name back from the Moses Mapita Stadium. And somehow our region in politics is named Moses Mapita region. Who knows what is the next steps? For purposes of abantu beindaba ngisho kodwa yeah kukhona la siyakhona because we want to honor all of them. kukhona okuthile okungenzeka. But we are very fortunate. Some have seen for the first time the picture of Ubabu Truman Makubane Laphana. We are fortunate that one of your generation, your Herikwala, your Fenendala, is still with us. I want to urge you again in Abefundisi kakhulu, pray for him, Ubabu Truman. Pray for his good health. Ukuthi uNkulunkulu amgcine. Last Saturday he was laying to rest his eldest son, uMlungisi. Now ziyaphela iy'ngane zakhe, and we know ukuthi uma singamsupport kuzomqeda lokho. So please pray for him. We know ukuthi South Africa has made significant strides. Economic growth, though it is uneven, has lifted millions out of poverty. The expansion of social services, including healthcare and education, has improved the lives of many. Reconciliation efforts have sought to heal the wounds of the past and are fostering a national unity. As we celebrate this significant milestone, it is crucial to engage in introspection. Despite notable progress, the nation continues to grapple with enduring challenges of economic inequality, and of course perpetuating marginalization of millions who remain excluded from the fruits of economic growth. Kusenomsebenzi ekufuna siwenze. We are glad ukuthi through the DDM model, we remain steadfast in our commitment to better the lives of the people across all spheres of government, advancing the agenda of the National Democratic Revolution. Indeed, we are not immune to the challenges faced by municipalities across the country, which remains, and we remain devoted to finding long-term solutions and securing a brighter future for future generations and improved service delivery. For today's joyous occasion, we would like to thank the Deputy Minister and the Presidency and GCIS officials and representatives abasuka kweminye iminyango, including the Mayor, Mzizuma, Mfundisi uMnculwane wase All Prison, kuthiwa kusemadalajele. Kanjalo ke ne-witness, we are very happy when uSandile starts to talk every day about Ricardo. He would not finish his speech without mentioning the oldest newspaper in the country, which we are very proud of what it is here in the city, and we are happy that you are continuing the legacy, but in a better and a more progressive manner, noting the history of the witness. Of course, as you celebrate all the journalists, Obabukara Mkhize, no Zondi, and all others that passed on, please keep that legacy. Yaleli phepha lisaqhubeka sahamba le-print lokuzana as belisana ne-digital lokuzana nje manje, but we are very glad ukuthi ningenile nalithatha over leli phepha, and we believe ukuthi lizoqhubeka. We understand that nation building and social cohesion is not just an event, so kudinga thina sonke njengabantu bala, it must become part of the fabric of our everyday lives. Unless sonke sisebenzisana ngokubambisana, akukho la singaya khona. Siyabonga kakhulu.
Siyabonga kakhulu bameya owami umsebenzi usuya ngasemaphethelweni. I would like to thank the Presidency to give me an opportunity to direct this program or this session. Ngibonga kakhulu, ngicabanga ukuthi ngimphathe kahle ke. Siyabonga DM kakhulu. Omeya bonke abangaphakathi, ama-comrade wonke akhona ngaphakathi, siyabonga kakhulu. Ngicabanga ukuthi umsebenzi wethu usuya ngasemaphethelweni, angazi ke noma wena amadlubovu usuzosithatha through sesiya lapho ke. I don't know. Thank you very much. Ngicela ningishayele ihlombe ke. mancule. Magijuyeri, basilawula wefa. Kanjiyona.